Welcome to Mom Bods and Margaritas, where two childhood friends navigate the wild and crazy world of midlife.
That's right. We're diving into the ups and downs of relationships, motherhood, health, sports, and everything in between.
Join us as we share our personal stories, laugh through the challenges, and explore how to thrive in this transformative phase of life. Whether you're feeling lost, empowered, or somewhere in between, we're here to remind you you're not alone.
So grab a coffee or a margarita, settle in, and let's embark on this journey together. It's time to embrace the chaos and celebrate the beauty of midlife. Let's get started. So today has been interesting. I've been in the car all day after a meeting. I had a meeting about 3.5 hours, 4 hours away from the house. And so just excited to be back talking about our favorite subject, or my favorite subject, women's health. And I know most of you are probably tired of hearing it already because we touch on it. It seems like every episode, but we're in that phase of our life when it really matters. And whether or not you're dealing with it now, you definitely will one day. I feel pretty good most of the time. I am on HRT, which I know we've touched on that as well. Estradiol patch saved my life, and probably everyone's around me as well. Pretty homicidal these days. But I have noticed over the last few weeks that my workout routine has been off, and that's due to schedule, switching gyms, a lot of things like that. And as a result, I'm waking up again, kind of night sweats, just really hot, joints aching. And so I can tell for myself that exercise plays a huge role in menopausal symptoms, how I feel, and just how I feel overall. I think you sleep better when you exercise, releases endorphins, you're in a better mood. So definitely something I've got to get control over.
Yeah, I have gone 12 days without working out. I worked out today for the first time in 12 days. So, and the reason was when I first started this workout routine, I went the 4 weeks and then I took a week pause, and I was out of town. So it just worked out timing.
Sure.
And then I went like another, I guess, 6 weeks and thought, okay, I'm going to take another week off, which I did, which was last week. And then Monday, what did I do Monday? I decided to work in the yard. I was trying to get ahead of things that are about to bloom. So I knew I'd get a bit of, a workout doing that. And then yesterday morning, I had an appointment, not a doctor's appointment, but just an appointment at like 10. So today I thought I have got to get back on track. And it's crazy because I've really enjoyed working out the past few months. But like I've always said, if I get off track just a little bit, it's hard for me to get back on. So I'm proud of myself for doing it 12 days later, because normally I think, oh, well, I've already messed it up, I'm just going to forget about it. But it was good to get back on track today, but it was also hard. I wasn't feeling it. I just had to kind of make myself do it. I felt like I, half-assed it on my leg exercises, but I got through it and I did the treadmill. So I don't even remember the point of me sharing all of that, but your point to exercising is, I felt better about it. It got me on track to eating what I needed to eat for the rest of the day and that sort of thing. So I think it does affect you mentally as well as physically.
Oh, for sure. And we won't talk about what I've eaten today because that's just not good. But
it's hard when you're on the road.
It is, and I got caught. And this is not an excuse. This is for real what happened. I was on my way to meet a coworker last night at a restaurant, and this town where I was, which is Mobile, Alabama, is known for Mardi Gras. just like New Orleans, there's a big debate. Obviously, did it start in New Orleans? Did it start in Mobile? Ask anyone in Mobile and they'll tell you the truth. But anyway, so I'm using my GPS. I'm coming in. It's dark. Took me, hours to get there. And as I'm driving in, my GPS is routing me all around. I notice cops are everywhere. Roads are closed. And I'm thinking, oh no, they're having a Mardi Gras parade. And I finally find a parking lot where I can park, and it's a pay to park, no big deal. $28 to park there for 2 hours.
Ooh.
And I'm walking up to the cop like, hey, what's going on? How can I get to this restaurant? Tell him the name of it. And he's like, oh, it's down that way. Well, down that way was closed. I literally got stuck in a Mardi Gras parade. Hey, I got some beads. It was fun, but they were throwing moon pies, oatmeal cream pies. Don't think I did not eat those today.
They throw oatmeal cream pies?
They did.
I didn't know that.
It channeled my inner Nick Saban.
Yes.
So I had to eat it. Didn't have coffee, but, had to eat it.
Oh, how funny.
But it's like these days when I don't work out, I have no discipline. You were talking about getting back on track with food. I have no discipline, and I want to eat sweets when I'm not working out. And I think there's a direct correlation, and then that makes you feel bad too.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's always more of a mindset for me than it is physically. Now, do I like to work out? Not really. I don't think I ever will. I will say it changes some. Once you get started, I think your body kind of craves it. And so it's not like I dread it, but do I wish that I didn't have to work out at this point in my life? Absolutely. It's just not something that I've really ever enjoyed doing. So for me, it's always a mental game. And I think if I get off track, that I'm losing every bit of muscle that I've gained. I'm going to gain every bit of fat. I'm going to gain all my weight back. And that's just not the case when you miss a week or two. So I have to just tell myself, Lisa, get back on track, do what you need to do, and everything's going to be fine.
Yes, agreed. And you will be proud of me. Part of this conversation you won't be proud of me about, but you will be proud about the other parts. So I took your advice and I looked into Jolie McLeod. I think that's her name.
Yeah.
And I bought her program.
Oh, good.
Because in the middle of switching gyms and all that, I'm just very dissatisfied with what's going on. We'll leave it at that. But I plan on starting that tomorrow morning.
I'm so excited.
So we're going to see how that works. I'm a very disciplined person. For whatever reason, I need a class. I don't want to go and wander aimlessly between machines in a gym and not really feel like, is my form correct?
Right.
Am I lifting the right amount of weight to meet my goals? I know I need to be lifting heavy, but am I just going to sit there and try to squat, 500 pounds? No, I'm not. I'm not trying to enter a bodybuilding competition. I'm trying to stave off, looking my age. And so having no direction, that's a problem for me. And I can't just go in there and start lifting. I know some exercises, but I just feel like I need a class. I need to get some instruction on what we're doing, the best way to do it. And then I'm going to see results. But me just wandering from machine to machine, I get bored. I don't want to do it. So I'm going to try this. And then the second part of that you're going to get on to me, and I already know. I have not been, now I go to my OBGYN every year, and she's kind of like my doctor, right? She runs all the blood work, does all the stuff. I do not have a primary care physician. I need to find one, and I am hell-bent on finding a good one. I had one that I thought was pretty decent, but I had some pretty significant concerns, which were dismissed. And this was by a female doctor. And so being the stubborn person that I am, I was like, fine, I'll just use my OBGYN for everything. She tests my cholesterol and all the stuff. But I need a primary care physician because I need to be going and just doing a little bit more in depth. So there it is. I laid it out.
Well, that's good. I didn't get a primary care physician until maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just never needed one because I
Mm-hmm.
never went to the doctor.
Yeah.
I didn't get sick very often, and if I did, I took over-the-counter medication. I just never needed to go for anything.
Yeah.
And if I did, I went to a doc in the box. So other than my
Same.
gynecologist, I just never went to the doctor. So I recently got one a few years ago. I'll tell you in private who it is. I don't want to say it
Okay.
on here
No,
because,
sure.
well, some of the stuff that I'm sharing today and
Mm-hmm.
my frustrations, it has to do with this doctor's office.
Sure.
And I'm not at the point to where I want to change doctors yet. I just wonder if some of this is just how it is these days. We've talked before about sometimes you have to pull teeth to get anything done, or
Yes.
you got to keep calling. So I actually sat down earlier today and wrote down on my iPad a timeline of what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to share today, just to show how frustrated I've been with just getting things done. And maybe this
Yes.
is normal now. If it is, I don't know that makes it right. But anyway, so since you brought it up, I'm going to kind of read down this list. So
Sure.
I think the last episode, I mentioned I was getting a calcium score done, right?
I think
Because
so.
I was wanting to come off my cholesterol medication. So I called my doctor to make sure that was okay. I would really like to not be on any meds. I've never been on meds my entire life until I
Mm-hmm.
started my hormone replacement therapy like 8 years ago. So I came off of all that last year. I think I shared that, which left me only being on cholesterol medication and acid reflux medication. So I called and asked if I could come off of the medication. Okay, so here's
Mm-hmm.
my timeline. I called my doctor's office on January the 29th
Mm-hmm.
to ask if I could come off my medication. They returned my call on the 31st. So 2 days later. To me, that's still a day late. I always give them 24 hours. If I called even at the end of the day, you should be checking your messages. The next thing, call me, whatever. Okay. So they called me 2 days later. I missed their call for some reason, but they left me a message. So I tried calling them back, left a message that same day. And then I went in on the patient portal and left a message there saying, I got your message. Yes. We'll set up a test. Before I came off of, the medication, they were wanting me to do this calcium score. So that's what all this initially started for. So I said, that's fine. They messaged me back and said, okay, that was the 31st. They messaged me back. Let me see when January 31st was. I think it was a Friday, yes. Obviously, they're not going to call me back over the weekend. They responded on February the 4th, which is a Tuesday. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
not even that Monday. A Tuesday saying, okay, they will submit the orders for the test. I got a call from the scheduling office at a separate location on February the 13th. That's 9 days later.
Yeah.
Okay, that's way too long. So they called me on the 13th, and we made the appointment for the 17th. Okay, so I think the 13th was a Wednesday, so I was going in for this test on that Monday. While I was there, and it was at the end of the day, the guy said, oh, these results will be, we'll know by the end of the day. It may not be on the patient portal, but it probably will be tomorrow. So I look the next day at noon, my results are up. Okay, so, but I've not heard from my doctor yet. So that Friday, the 21st, because my doctor has still not called me with these results, even though I can see them on the 18th, it's the 21st, and I'm having to call them to say, what's up? My results have been up for days. I've not heard anything. Can I come off of my cholesterol medication? This was at like 8:15 that Friday morning. The medical assistant for the nurse and doctor calls me back and says, "Oh, so and so just happened to look at all of that last night." Okay, so that would have been Thursday night. Well, it's been up since Tuesday, I know, by noon. So why are we just looking at it Thursday night? So yeah, she wants to get you another test because the calcium score came back fine. There was no calcium anywhere. However, there's a little bit of fluid around your heart, so we want to do an echocardiogram. I said, okay. So that was this past Friday, the 21st. I got a call from scheduling yesterday, right? Is that right? I texted my mom. Hang on, let me check. I think it was yesterday. No, I'm sorry. They called me this morning. You think I would remember that since that was like 8 hours ago. So here's my deal about that. When I talked to them on Friday about having new tests done, the scheduling office literally called me really 2 to 3 days later, because that was on a Friday. I'll give them 3 days. Okay, Monday, Tuesday. But the time before, it took them 9 days to call me back. And because it was a calcium score, I had to pay for it. My insurance was just not going to pay for that, which is fine. It's not that much anyway. So it
But
really
it's still frustrating because it's a necessary test that
It
your
is. That
doctor
part
is
of it.
asking for.
That part of it is frustrating. However, if it's not going through insurance, I'm just wondering why it took 9 days to call me. So I'm feeling like the orders were not put in as soon as we got off the phone, considering they called me 3 days later for this echocardiogram. Okay. So I've got that scheduled for towards the end of next week. And then we'll just see what that says. But my first call was January the 29th, and today's the 26th. So this has been going on a month. And I would understand if it was taking the scheduling office that long to get me in, but like I have to keep calling you to, find out what's going on with my test. And then when she calls me back, she was like, "Oh, well, we didn't even talk about if you could come off your meds yet." I said, "Well, can you ask?" Obviously, she doesn't want me to until this next test comes around, but I call my mom, and obviously I want to do what I need to do. If I have to take meds for whatever's going on, then, I will. But it's like I'm trying to come off of meds, and I may possibly be adding another medication to my list. So, and I'm trying to not be negative about it because, if there is something going on with this fluid around my heart, then at least I found out about it. And I wouldn't have found out about it unless I called to come off of the medication, or if something were to happen. I don't know how big of a deal it is. Of course, when I Google it, the amount that she told me that I had is kind of like the high end of a small amount, maybe the low end of a moderate amount.
Right.
So who knows? But anyway, so all that's been going on for a month, and I still am not done with whatever it is that needs to be done. Oh, and then if those tests don't come back with a good report, then I have to start seeing a cardiologist. So, that's where we are.
And listen, I want to be very clear on this to our 25 subscribers that we have, that in no way us having opinions about what's going on in healthcare that affects us directly. We're not saying doctors are lazy.
Right.
We're not saying nurses are lazy. We're not saying any of those types of things. I have nurses in my family that I know for a fact work extremely hard. I have friends that are nurses. I have friends that have children that are nurses. So this is not a conversation that we're trying to say, oh, nobody wants to do their job and they're lazy. What my point is, and I'm certain that Lisa will piggyback off of this, is that the whole system feels broken. And it's like you can't get the tests that you need. If you do, insurance won't pay for them. Nurses, as a general rule, are overloaded. They don't have enough staff. They can't physically get through 100 patients worth of tests in 2 days that they have allotted, and then proceed to call all of those people back and go through results and get you back in rescheduled. I mean, I understand that it is not a matter of them just sitting in there filing their nails. It's not that. But the point that I'm making is the entire system is broken. I've complained before about the lack of focus on menopause and women's health in general. They consistently want to shove another pill down your throat because they're being encouraged to do so via compensation, or that's just what they're taught. And in addition, then you have to take more medication to fix the problems that the other ones caused. We're not getting to the root of the issue and what's going on. We're just masking it, and we're shoving pills, writing prescriptions, and then it takes a month of Sundays to get an answer. And it's so frustrating. And if you're not your own advocate, and that's in every avenue, that means at the doctor's office, at the dentist office, in the hospital, when you have tests, for your parents, for your grandparents, hospice. I've got 2 family members on hospice right now. If you are not your own advocate, it will not get done. And so my heart breaks for people who can't be their own advocate and they don't have anyone to do it for them. But it's just, I don't know. I just worry about the state of our healthcare, and I don't think it's healthcare. I think it's sick care. And I think nurses, doctors, everybody's doing their best within the confines of what they've been taught. But I think we need an overhaul. And, I don't have all the answers. I'm not saying I do. I'm not in healthcare. So I'm sure there are a tremendous amount of challenges that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
But just from a patient standpoint, I feel like sometimes they don't take you seriously. They think it's all in your head, and here's an antidepressant because you're feeling frustrated or feeling tired or all these things, which are menopausal symptoms. So can we address that? It's not always give me an anti-anxiety medication, or, now I have anxiety, now I have depression, now I have this. It's always something in your head, and they want to just give you more pills. And luckily, I have not, had to take an antidepressant or anything since I had postpartum. But there are a lot of people on them, and there's a lot of people that need to be on them. But there is a lot of them that have just been forced into this system. And when one doesn't work, they give you another. That one doesn't work, they give you another. And it's like, well, maybe they don't need it. Maybe there are other ways to address some of the same issues. And again, I'm not trying to be Tom Cruise on the couch here, jumping up and down, talking about, but there is truth to vitamins and exercise and getting sunlight, which I need to get more of, sleep. All of those things affect your brain and affect your mood and the way that you feel. And I know I certainly benefit from eating right, exercising, and taking vitamins and supplements.
Yeah, I think it's all cyclical, where you swing from, one end to the other on the pendulum, where for so long it was, and I'm not like anti-vax, but I'm just saying vaccinations, medications, medical science has come so far, and we have all of these advantages that people didn't have 100 years ago or 150 years ago. And I think it's gotten too far. I think sometimes people tend to just want a pill to fix their problem. And
Yes.
again, I'm not trying to, you know, be holier than thou or jump
Yeah.
on some bandwagon, but it's the truth of the matter is some people would just rather take a pill to fix their problems. Some
Mm-hmm.
people thrive on just always having to go to the doctor. There's always something wrong with them. And
Yes.
I'm not like that. I'd never had to take medication. Maybe if things were different when I was younger, I may have a different opinion about it. All I can go on is my experience. And now that I've had to be on medication, different medications for several years, I don't want to be that person. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be dependent on medications. And I've had to try to learn. And I think it's getting better. I think there's more information coming out about healthier food choices and
Mm-hmm.
exercising. It's, you know, you got to find it a lot of the times. You've got to go
Yeah.
on the internet or social media and find who's putting that out there. But
Mm-hmm.
it's there and you have to educate yourself, especially at our age. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
who's going to educate us? We're 50 years old.
Yeah.
So, um, you have to just know your body and know how you feel and recognize what doesn't feel normal and what doesn't feel good and do something about it, because there are other ways of dealing with these issues than going to the doctor and taking a pill. Obviously,
Yes.
you know, I need to drop 10 pounds. Well, I don't think that I need to get on a pill for that. I think I
Mm-hmm.
need to count my calories and
Mm-hmm.
exercise and eat better and get
Yeah.
more sleep. I mean, it's pretty simple. Now, is it work for me to have to do all that? Absolutely. Do I have to make myself some days? Absolutely. Is it fun that I don't get to eat whatever I want to anymore and have Cokes all day? Absolutely. But it's what I have to do. And I have to recognize that Cokes really aren't good for you. Now, I
Yeah.
drink Coke, so again, I'm not trying to be judgy against people who drink Cokes,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that sometimes we have to put in the work. And for me,
Yeah.
that's I'm either going to try to put in the work and see results, or I'll just be overweight for the rest of my life. You know,
Yeah.
it's
I,
10 pounds right now, but it will be 20 and 30 because
sure.
obviously, if you have a heart condition or high cholesterol like what I have, you know, you do need to get on medication, but your diet and exercise can bring down your cholesterol. In my
Yes.
case, it may be genetic because it does run on my mom's side of the family, and there are heart issues on my mom's side of the family. So I know that we can't always fix it with things that we do on a daily basis, but a lot of the times we can. And
Yeah.
I think people just need to buck up and do what
Yeah.
they need to do sometimes.
Well, a lot of it is we're Gen X, right? Love us or hate us, Gen X, we were latchkey kids most of the time. We raised ourselves. We drank out of a hose. We had, I mean, what we thought we were rich when we had Kool Aid out
We
of a
love
pitcher.
TV dinners.
Love it, and we, I mean, times were just very different. And I feel like, again, this is not picking on the younger generation, but I feel like they've grown up in a time where every conversation is talking about mental health. And in, I think it's fabulous in certain ways. I think it's super important. If I had talked about mental health when I was younger, I probably wouldn't have made some of the decisions that I've made in my life. Let's be honest. But it can become a crutch and it can become your identity. And when
Mm-hmm.
you wear it like a coat and you say, I have anxiety, I have depression,
Mm-hmm.
I have this, I have that, maybe you do. I'm not here to say whether you do or you're not or you don't. That's for a mental health professional or a qualified doctor, psychiatrist, whatever. But a lot of times, to your point, it can be fixed with let's say prayer. If you don't believe in God and you don't pray, meditation. People do yoga. People exercise. People, sleep more, change up their diet. There are things that you can do to help you cope. And that, again, if you have a mental health disorder, I'm not suggesting don't take your medication. There are people who are diagnosed with bipolar and other different mental health conditions, and I think it is important that we talk about it. But do I think that every person has depression and anxiety? No, I don't. And I think, again, the younger generation, they don't know what it's like to not talk about your mental health. I think it's important. I think you should take care of it. And part of that is work-life balance, which I don't always do a great job at, which affects also, your mental health. But I think some of it, to be honest, is just our generation. We push through. If you're depressed, guess what? Get up and go to work. If you have anxiety, guess what? Get up and go to work. And I think we've again swung that pendulum way too far to the other way, where if someone says something mean to me or corrects me, I need to take a day off because it's for my mental health. And we're not building that resilience and that mental toughness that it takes to be an adult when really bad things happen, when you get a diagnosis, when you have a family member that's dying, when all of those things, if you cannot tolerate someone saying something negative to you, it's going to be really hard for you to push through the rest of your life when all these hits keep coming.
Absolutely, because it's always been like that and it will always be like that. I think the term bullying gets overused.
Yeah.
It for sure happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't deny that one bit, but I think people get their feelings hurt all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes rightfully so. But that doesn't mean, I don't think we should take it to the extreme that we always do sometimes.
Yeah.
People are going to say things that you don't like. People are not going to always agree with you. People are not always going to like you, just like you don't always like everyone you meet.
Yes.
You don't always agree with someone. You may say something ugly to someone,
Mm-hmm.
So let's just be honest about it and recognize it for what it is and just learn how to deal. I try
Yeah.
to tell my kids all the time, especially my boys, because it's been in more recent years, but I'm like, you have to learn how to deal with this in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with it. It's not fun, but I've said before on here, and I've said it for years, you have to grieve. Sometimes you have to feel sad. It doesn't mean you're depressed. It doesn't mean that there's anything
Mm-hmm.
wrong with you. Sometimes you're going to be sad and hurt and angry, and it's okay to cry about it, to vent about it,
Mm-hmm.
to let off steam so you can move on.
Yeah.
So you might need a pill for it, depending on your situation or the gravity of the situation. Sometimes you don't. You just
Mm-hmm.
allow yourself to go through the process. To me, that just makes sense. It's not fun,
Yeah.
and I've made mistakes along the way on how I dealt with situations or
Sure.
grieved, but I don't know. I feel like I could get on my soapbox about something. I think I come across a lot of times as just being overbearing and not empathetic and judgmental, and that's really not who I am. In fact, I've been told by people before that I'm a very empathetic person. I can put myself in someone's situation and know how and understand, or I think I can feel what they feel.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
mean, I'm not of the mindset of we support someone, and I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I don't support someone just because they're my friend or my family
Yeah.
member. I will love them, but if someone is making an asinine decision about something, I'm not just
Yeah.
going to say, well, whatever you decide, I'm going to support you. It just depends on the situation. So I tend to be more of a tough love type of person, but it doesn't mean that I don't care or that I don't see both sides of a story usually, or, it's just so I hope people don't misunderstand me as being
Well,
too hardcore about all this.
I was going to say, like on Anchorman, when they say, well, that escalated quickly, I'm over here ranting and raving about things, but it's just, it is the way of the world that you're going to have trouble. And I'm a very empathetic person too. I have a heart, but I'm kind of like an M&M. I've got a hard shell on the outside and I'm very soft on the inside. My friends will tell you that I'm loyal to a fault. I'm loyal to the core. But there has to be some accountability. And when you just are willy-nilly doing whatever you want to do, and then, oh, what is that at the door? Oh, it's the consequences. Yeah, they are here ringing your doorbell. And listen, I've had my fair share of consequences. That's how I learned. And
Yeah, that's
again,
right.
that goes back to Gen X, and you can call boomers whatever you want and all that, but there was some accountability there. And I'm not going to say it's across the board, but you had to be tough. And if somebody hurt your feelings, oh well, you had a couple of choices. You could fight them after school, or you could just let it roll off and go on. Um,
Well, I
and
let it roll
now,
off because I was not going to fight.
well,
That would not have taken long. I'd have been on the ground in 2 seconds.
well, anyway, um, I may or may not be on the other camp there, but I guess my point is we've got to toughen up as a society and stop letting other people have so much power over us. And I'm preaching to myself as well. You have bad days and people say mean things or do mean things, and it's hard. It's hard to shake off. I tend to respond more with frustration and combativeness and assertiveness or aggressiveness, whatever you want to call it, rather than going home and sucking my thumb and crying about it. I'll find something to do. But I guess rounding all of this out is, our generation is different, but it goes back to the women's health too. And what I shared last season about the WW, the whiny woman. And that's what I mean by taking accountability, being your own advocate, trying to round this out where it makes more sense for everybody is you have to be tough, and you have to not always be the emotional whiny woman, right? Because you want to be taken seriously when there is a health problem or there is something wrong. If you're going in there and saying how depressed you are because your car wouldn't start and you had to get a new battery, that's a fact of life. That's something that's going to happen. And so when something tragic comes along, you're going to need the help and support of sometimes medical professionals, friends, family. And we've just got to learn as a society to get back to not being so offended and upset and falling apart. We've got to toughen up so that when something is going on in our life, then we're able to go to a mental health professional and say, look, I've been through all of these things. I can handle stress. I can handle problems. But this one broke me. And here's where I am. And I think if we get real honest with ourselves, we're going to see that we need to push through that victim mentality and stand up for ourselves.
Well, life is not a fairy tale. And as
Yep.
you like to say, it's not the highlight reel on social media.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be good, and it's not always going to be fun. And I think if
Yep.
you think otherwise, I, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, I think realistically people know that there's going to be hard times, ups and downs. You're going to have to fight through relationships, jobs, tiredness, whatever it is at different
Mm-hmm.
points in your life until the day that you're not on this earth. It will never end. There's always going to
Yeah.
be something. So again, I think it's just important to learn how to deal with that in a healthy way. I am preaching to myself on that because that wasn't
Sure.
the case for me when I was younger, and that's just a whole different episode. But I think that that's it really important, and I think that's why I tell that to my kids. Like I said, especially my boys, because I see them more than I do my daughter. But I just want them to be able to deal with things better than I did. And it goes
Yeah.
back to what you said on mental health. If we would have talked about like mental health when we were in school, you would have gotten looked at like you were crazy. It would have
Yeah.
made no sense because that just wasn't something that people did or talked about, you know?
Yeah. And, again, to be super clear, there is no shame. I'm not guilting, shaming anyone. If you have a legitimate mental health condition, what I'm talking about is that is a buzzword.
Right.
And people like to blame their behavior on their mental health, and then they like to play victim as a result of their mental health. And all I'm saying is, let's try to find a medium ground here where if your doctor is seeing 500 patients and 490 of them have depression and anxiety, if you're the one who legitimately has it, do you believe that they're going to take you seriously and they are going to help and make sure that you get the help that you need?
Right.
Probably not, because again, it's worn like a coat and it's not your identity. Even if you do have bipolar, depression, anxiety, even if those things are very, very real and you need medication, that is not your identity. That is something that you go through, that you need medication to help you and support you, but it is not who you are. And we've got to stop wearing that badge of, well, I made these decisions because I'm depressed, or, and listen, there's been time in my life that I've made horrible decisions because I was lonely or because I was frustrated or because I was depressed about something. Not that I was in a depressive state, but I was depressed about something and I made poor choices and I drank a lot when I was younger and made poor choices in school. So, we just have to learn from it. And again, rounding all this out is be your own advocate and just, are you really sick, or are you just running to the doctor or owning that diagnosis?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. I'm not suggesting that anytime someone wants to seek medical or mental professional
Sure.
help that there's something wrong. I've seen therapists on different occasions.
Oh, me too.
On I think two separate occasions that I can think of in my 30s. I didn't see the doctor long,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just a time in my life where I was going through something.
Yeah.
And so I went and spoke to someone during that time.
Sure.
Now, for me, it was only a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months during that time. So I'm not acting like no one needs to go see a therapist.
No.
I've been there. Okay. I've done that. So,
No.
again, I don't want anyone to take that the wrong way, but
No. And you have to hear us clearly. That's why I keep giving the disclaimer. I mean, I saw a therapist last year. I was going through a very traumatic divorce. I saw a therapist last year. Again, I'm not saying anything negative about it. I'm just saying we've got to do a better job as a society. Stop cramming pills down our throats. It's not health care, it's sick care. And we've just got to find ways to combat, not, I don't know how we got off on mental health so badly, but it was just top of mind today. I think because women, when they go in with menopausal symptoms and other things, they give them antidepressants, and it just infuriates me.
well, we wanted to talk about health care
Yeah.
and whether it's physical or mental. It's all
Yeah.
It's all under
All
the
rolled into
healthcare,
one.
yeah, umbrella. So, I think it was good to talk about.
Yeah, agreed. That just happened to be top of mind today.
Yeah. Well, I will say, since we've been having these conversations, especially on the podcast last season, and me knowing that this was coming up, I will say that when I do go to the doctor for the probably, when was that? At least 6 months ago when we talked about it before, I will find myself telling myself, Lisa, make sure you ask about this.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, make sure you're your own advocate. If you don't understand something, keep asking. Don't worry about taking up the doctor's times.
Yeah.
When I didn't get my results back, normally I would just wait because I thought, oh, there would be nothing wrong. Or if there was something wrong, they'd call me. Go ahead and call. So things like that for me that I normally wouldn't do, I've been
Mm-hmm.
reminding myself that this is what you need to ask, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you feel or what you think it may look like that you come across as by just keeping on asking the doctor questions. You just need to do it. So
Yeah.
for me, it's been kind of like an accountability thing for me.
Sure.
Because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, we're talking about this on the podcast. We're suggesting that this is what we, along with everyone else, needs to be doing to speak up for ourselves. So I need to be doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And, because of us talking about it on the podcast and because of you sharing with me what's going on with your tests, I'm going to get a primary care physician. So, anyway, it's something we have to do.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
That
Hope we don't get
midlife.
canceled on this episode.
I've actually been thinking there's going to be somebody out there that's listening to this thinking, oh my gosh, let's, find out where they are and go
We're
egg their
down
home
to
or something.
24 subscribers by the time this baby comes out.
Yes. Well, you know what? Whatever.
Hey, we're two opinionated menopausal women. You're the one sitting here watching it. I mean, we're nothing if we're entertaining, right? So, we're allowed to have opinions. This is America. You cannot listen to us.
I can't let it hurt my feelings.
No. I mean, I promise we'll be okay.
Right. Well, all right. Well, that was a good conversation.
It was, as always. I'd love to see your face in person.
I know. We got to get it together.
We got to get it together.
Yep. We will soon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a good week. I hope everyone else has a good week too.
Bye.
Bye.